Here come the boys. Y'all ready to go swimming, baby? Come on. Give it up. Get out of that water. I tried telling y'all, it's swim lessons, baby.
I am excited for today's podcast. My name is Dallas Hansen. Thank you for choosing us here at Swim Lessons. Thanks for being here today. My guest is the newly hired head boys basketball coach of Minot High School, and that is Jeremy Brandt. Coach Brandt has had an interesting ride when it comes to the game of basketball. He won a state championship with the Beulah Miners. He coached his son Trey at college at Minot State. And now, like I just said, he's the head boys basketball coach of the Magi here at Minot High School. And what I love about Coach Brandt is he has this relentless love for the game of basketball. And to see him get another job, when I talked to him before at Minot State, he wasn't sure if he'd get a job at a head coach position. And it was cool because he left his last position to coach his son at college, and what a rare opportunity that is. And like he said back then, I'm not sure if I'll get another head job. Well, now he's got that job, and it's for Minot High, and it's an exciting time. And we talked about what you can expect for Minot High basketball for the boys side of things here coming down the way in this upcoming season. Very exciting stuff, and I wish Coach Brandt the best, and I appreciate him taking some time. But today wouldn't be possible without River's Edge Bar and Grill. That's right, folks. In Williston, North Dakota, they're known for offering the best happy hour in town, providing unbeatable deals in a lively atmosphere. Guests can also enjoy a variety of entertaining activities, including bingo, trivia, and the very popular Name That Tune. Come on down to River's Edge for great drinks, great food, and great fun. And how about Glasso Angus, a proud sponsor of Swim Lessons? They are your premier source for registered Black Angus cattle since 1973. Glasso Angus cattle showcase dominance, durability, and docility, and they're built to thrive on the northern plains. Check them out. That's Glasso, Glasoe, Angus.com. And last but not least, a network that's going to be covering Minot here in the upcoming basketball season, football season. They got a few basketball and softball games left. That's PSP Network. The ringleader, Nick Holberg, is very excited for this upcoming year. We got some new additions to the programming, and I myself, along with our talented team, is going to be providing you all the updates you need at PSP Network when it comes to the local student-athlete world. Make sure to check them out at psp.network. Subscribe to their YouTube channel at PSP Network. Without further ado, I give you one of the best people in the basketball world. That is head boys basketball coach of Minot High. That's got a nice ring to it. Jeremy Brandt. Coach Brandt, thanks for doing this. This is awesome.
Absolutely. It's been it hasn't been too long since we did this last, but
I know when I texted you to do this. Thank you for coming in. Your life so far, last time we talked, you talked about how these opportunities they just kind of fall in your lap, but you've worked for them. Like the time you got your first job, you're helping your dad on the air seeder. Well, now you've got this ideal Minot State position, assistant, watching your son play college basketball, and Dean Winchesky retires. Right away, I thought of you. And then I hear you got the job, and I was so stoked. I mean, take us through the process of when you hear Dean's resigning, and then you were like, okay, do I apply? Like, what was going on?
You know, it really caught me off guard, to be honest with you. I teach at Minot High part of the day. So I was there in the morning, and I was walking in the hallway from the attendance office back to my room kind of after my class, and Dean and I met in the hallway. So I just, that was right after WDA, and I just, I made a comment to him about the season and stuff, and and we started visiting for a while, and then that's when he kind of mentioned it to me. He said, I'm probably going to be done, and just said
during the WDA.
No, right after the WDA. Okay. Yeah. So we had that conversation then, and so I kind of knew, or he kind of gave me a heads up and said, if this is something you're interested in, it's going to be a week or two before I actually resign and go through that whole process. So, I had some time to think about it. It was actually the week right before we left to go to Kansas City for the NCAA tournament.
Wow.
So it was that like Monday or Tuesday, of that week. So yeah, I had a little heads up, but it really caught me off guard too, because obviously I didn't expect that from him to be ready to be done. But yeah, so from there, it was just kind of, I didn't even tell my wife right away. I just kind of, I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to be the one to let it out of the bag but I certainly, it was on my mind a lot, obviously, after that, because it's a very intriguing coaching job, obviously, at Minot High and the tradition and history that's there. So there was, I had a lot to think about and kind of mull over for a while.
What goes through your mind when he tells you that? Like there's got to be so many emotions.
Yeah, I mean, it was, for me, it was kind of like, I felt honored that he would tell me that, and kind of, give me that heads up. And, I wouldn't say that he pushed it towards me, but he was kind of like, I think you would be a good person for the job. Yeah. And so I was kind of honored. I felt good about that, obviously. But then the first thing that goes to my mind is, well, I just left a really good job in Beulah to come here to have an opportunity to have more flexibility to go to Minot State games and watch my son play. And now I'm back in a situation where now,
and this is more competitive.
Yeah. Well,
we're not taking anything away, but
I'm just, it's kind of like, I'm going to miss games now from Minot State, and I'm going to miss some of those games that Trey's playing. So that was probably the biggest thing that I really struggled with as far as deciding whether I was going to apply or not.
Yeah.
And then when we got back from Kansas City from the NCAA tournament, then I know I went out and had lunch, and Trey and I we'd kind of gotten a routine. About every 2 weeks, we'd go out and have meet for lunch somewhere. And so we sat down, and I had kind of mentioned, I need to visit with you because there's, I have a opportunity maybe to get a coaching job. And so we visited, and he was just like, yeah, he said, Dad, you gotta do it. He said, I know you really, the assistant thing, he said, wasn't probably, your favorite thing, he said. And he said, I think that'd be a great opportunity for you. And he was really on board with it. And so that made it a little bit easier for me, but I still kind of struggled with the fact that, on Friday nights, when we're at,
Bismarck High,
or even at a home game, and they have their games on Fridays and Saturdays, obviously, and they're maybe at the Dome, there's going to be those times where I'm thinking, man, I really wish I was up there watching him play. So, for the next 2 years, that's going to be the challenging part, is trying to get to as many games of his as I can. And, obviously the streaming allows me to still watch them, but that was by far and away the biggest thing that I had to consider, or was maybe the biggest factor in me not applying if I wouldn't have applied.
So maybe he wants to coach with you. 2 years left. That's kind of a perfect situation too.
And yeah, that would be great if that were to happen. He's not an education major, but he is coaching, doing some AAU, some summer coaching now with one of the Phenom teams in Bismarck. So in fact, they're on their way to Chicago. I think they're leaving tomorrow morning for an event in Chicago. So
wow.
I think he's kind of
catching the bug a little bit,
hoping that maybe with whatever career or whatever job he gets someday, that he's able to do some coaching on the side. And if it would work out where he could come on our staff, that'd be great. So maybe some in the future, we'll see what happens. But who knows?
We were talking a little bit before we jumped on here about your prior position with Minot State, and how, what was it, last week and a half ago, the coach Merkin announced he was leaving for South Dakota, and then kind of they got hit hard by the portal. And I've heard it from both sides, and Merkin's a great friend of mine, a great friend of yours, and I really like the guy. In North Dakota, when he left, or when he leaves, North Dakota basketball got a little bit less great because he's such a great basketball mind. But I looked at it right away. I'm like, no, you can't leave. But then I looked at it through a different lens. He's at the top of the mountain at Minot State. He did everything but basically win a championship, literally like everything you can do. And last year he did it from scratch. So I'm like, okay, it's pretty selfish of me to be like, no, you got to stay, when he's got a better opportunity closer to his family, like you were saying before, his mom, everybody, his brother. And that's a big time job at assistant at South Dakota. Like that'll propel him to bigger and better things. And you get into the coaching world to get bigger and better things. Look at yourself. So, you coach with Merkin. Tell us a little bit about kind of what went on as he left Minot State, or what you can share.
Well, you're 100% right. I think, in our profession as coaches, or even as players, why are players going into the portal? They're trying to get a better situation for themselves. And it's no different for coaches either. Selfishly, like you said, people want that person to stay here, but the time that he's put in here, he's earned the right to have a better opportunity, which he got. So, I'm sure there was some people frustrated or upset that he left, but again, you can't blame him for that because he's trying to better himself in his profession and get himself in a better situation. And again, it's, he had told me this spring, because I had asked him about the Northern job that had come open. And I had heard a couple rumors from other people that had texted me and said, hey, did, Merck apply for the Northern job? And I said, well, not that I know of, but so I asked him and he said, no, he said, I didn't apply. He said, really the only reason that we would ever leave Minot is to get closer to our families. Mm-hmm. So that makes total sense for him going down there. And he's from Iowa, which he's much closer there than he was here to home or to his mother. So yeah, I mean, nobody's blaming. I'm not blaming him one bit for trying to better himself. He got an opportunity, and the last 2 years, especially with the success the team has had, obviously that is probably given him that opportunity that he got, and kudos to him, and great for him, and he's moving on to to what he wants or thinks is a better opportunity, and that's great.
Hey folks, are you craving authentic, mouth-watering smoked meats? Well, let me tell you where to go. It's Bronson's Smokehouse in Beulah, North Dakota. They've been serving up legendary country-style sausage, jerky, and Slim Jims for over 40 years. Order online today at bronsonsmokehouse.com. That's Bronson's, BRONSONS, smokehouse.com, and taste the tradition. He's such a good dude. Before the State B basketball tournament, he was walking around. I talked to him for like 25 minutes just about that big where is he from? Australia? The big guy,
Caleb. Yeah,
he was talking about him and some other prospects, and of course we talked about Eagle Staff a little bit and where we thought he would go. But there was a story I want to tell you, and to go back to the Minot High stuff. I was at the WDA. I was working for PSP, and before I was doing sideline reporting for the girls' championship and boys' championship. Minot High is playing the game before the girls' WDA championship, and they lose. And Dean, I covered Minot High a lot that year. And Dean usually shakes hands and sprints to the locker room, basically. This time he shook hands, stopped, looked around, took it all in, and literally made a kiss at the scoreboard. And I thought, he's done. And of course I didn't know. Mm-hmm. Like I had him on the podcast about a week before, mm-hmm. and he talked about, I'm not sure how much a coach's shelf life is. And he's right. But I was like, man, if he's done, that's insane and at the time there's a lot of rumors like he's going to go to Dickinson and maybe coach with Dickinson State. Eric's going there, all this stuff. But I was like, man, if he's done, what's the next steps? And I hadn't thought of you yet until he actually resigned. But talk about a great career. And people always talk about this with Minot High. Okay. Dean had big shoes to fill. Now you have big shoes to fill. How are you approaching that aspect of the job?
Well, if you look at it, since roughly 40 some years, I'll be the third coach in 40 some years in that, awesome. In that program. Yeah. And before Gene Manson was, I believe Terry J. Olmstead. So there hasn't been a lot of coaches there. So there's been a lot of consistency, but I think that's a big reason for the success of that program too, is that consistency. Mm-hmm. So there's certainly big shoes to fill, but and that's one thing I think, that you probably, as you gain those years of experience, you obviously gain more confidence in yourself as well. So, and for me, I'm at the point where, I've done 29 years as a head coach and then 2 years as an assistant now. So I've been around a lot of basketball, and, I certainly, again, I feel like that I've got a lot of confidence in my ability to come in now and just kind of try to keep that program in the same position, and, and maybe, I shouldn't say elevate it, but try to continue that mm-hmm. success that Dean has continued on since, Coach Manson. So, there'll be pressure there for sure, but it won't be any more than pressure that I haven't already put on myself as right. I've coached as well, and because every year we have expectations as coaches, and, we kind of have standards that we expect out of our team and out of ourselves as coaches as well. And that's not going to change. It's just that, I'll be coaching now at a little bit higher level as far as, talent, I guess, if you will, or more, you just have more kids, I guess, to choose from, in a program like this. And then, for North Dakota, it's the most challenging league probably in North Dakota. So a lot of very good coaches in WDA. And that's exciting for me, and it's going to be challenging as well, but I'm really looking forward to that. opportunity that I've been given.
I'm a state B guy. You've won the state B championship. That tournament's special, but I must say, in my recent years, the WDA tournament's very special. Like last year when it was Century and Bismarck High, the place was packed. It was like a state championship. It was so loud. Even I interviewed Darren Mattern after they won it. He's like, look at this place. It's packed, sold out. Like, this is why we do it. And it's a special thing. So you're going to fit right in. Don't worry. I had that question in my notes. I'm like, I wonder how that's this. So great answer. Take us back to, okay, you decide you're going to interview, and explain the interview process with us when you're applying for the head coach at Minot High.
Well, so obviously Mitch Lundy's the AD,
Yep.
and Mitch was the one that hired me to come to Beulah. So he
What?
was the AD when I was in Beulah. Yep.
No way.
So he and Todd Kaler was the principal at the time in Beulah. And I knew those guys a little bit. Mitch, I knew since high school because he grew up in Mohall. I'm a Max
Wow.
Bass guy. We grew up not very far apart. He's a little bit older than me. So, I've worked for Mitch, and he obviously was very familiar with me, and, have those years that we worked together in Beulah. So there was certainly a lot of familiarity there. And, I think that probably helped along with my experience, obviously, as well. But yeah, it was just kind of, more of kind of at the first, it was kind of just to feel it out, is this something you'd be interested in, and they really kind of encouraged me to apply.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there on out, I, after the application process was over, we did a little interview, and then, after that, he told me that the job was mine.
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, so I mean, I was excited for it. Again, I was, like I said, a little apprehensive at first because I just had a lot going on with obviously with Trey's situation, and again, for him and I, we have a really huge connection through basketball. So that was the biggest struggle for me, like I said earlier. But once I got over that, and once I'd visited with Trey, and visited with my wife was just saying, you just do whatever you want. He's always kind of been like, yeah, the coaches' wives, they go through a lot over the years, and she knew that there some of my struggles the last 2 years being an assistant and just working outside of Minot State, and then just going to practice and not feeling like I was in the loop. And it was of nobody's fault. It was just the way the situation was.
Yeah.
It wasn't ideal. And for me, that's, I struggled with that a little bit too. And so she was very supportive, but just said, what, you do whatever you want to do or make that decision on your own. So
when you get the job, what are you most excited about coming in as the head coach of the Magi?
Well, I think just, and I know if Dean had mentioned it to me and you said it earlier, I think, that, he did it for 25 years or something like that. And it's not just November to March,
Right.
That job isn't, high school coaching jobs, they really aren't. So it wears on you. It weighs you down, all the time, all the pressures, all those things. And, stepping away and just being an assistant for 2 years, I think kind of, for me anyway, refreshed me a little bit, because there were times at the end of the season, you're just thinking, man, it's
a grind.
It is. And, so those 2 years away, even though, I look back and I think, what we were on 100 practice, 120 or 40 some at Minot State this year in 1 year. So there's obviously a lot of practices, but I didn't have that stress of planning practice every day, and all of that comes with being the head coach. So that kind of reinvigorated me a little bit as well. And now I just feel like I'm really refreshed and ready to go. We've had a few open gyms with the guys here now, and it seems like we have a really great group coming back. Dean's been very supportive of me. I've been in his room a few times and we visited about some things. So he's been very supportive through this whole process as well. And, and so has Mr. Lundy and everybody, to be honest with you. So, the other big thing for me, and I know we texted back and forth but all the assistants are going to stick around, and that's going to be huge. Horns has been here for how long?
Long time.
What a great, resource and great. I am so glad that he's sticking around. And then Eric Pearson, Matt Fow, those guys are going to stick around. So they've been, in the WDA a long time, and that's going to be invaluable for me to have those guys stay. And so, yeah, I'm really, really excited that they're happy that they're going to stay, because I think that's going to be tremendous help for me.
Yeah, I mean, Brian and Eric Pearson's great. All of them are great, but like Brian Hornecker, and obviously I've got kind of a soft spot for him because he's my girlfriend's uncle. But just when I first met him, I didn't even know he coached. Like my first date I came with Kristen, she's like, yeah, Brian helped me do this. Brian helped me do that. I'm like, who the hell is this Brian guy? Like, am I playing second fiddle to somebody? She's like, oh, Brian's my uncle, by the way. I'm like, oh, thank God. But he like helps the family so much. And it's same with his basketball family. You know, he tells a lot of stories about the great Derek Doucette and how they get back from a game at 11:30 and Derek's like, I want to go get some shots up. Okay. And Brian would stay there with him, or I want to get up at 5 a.m. and get shots up. So like he just knows. And even working for PSP this past year, they were like, oh, Dallas, you know, how did you get involved? Well, I'm like, oh, my girlfriend's uncle is Brian Horner. Oh, we love Brian, you know. So you nailed that by saying that's going to be so beneficial for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, it's invaluable. If I would have had to find my own staff besides, you know,
think of road trips. Like he already knows how to do road trips.
Exactly. You know, and he's done most of the scheduling as far as like, if we stay on overnighters, he's kind of been in charge of doing all that. I don't have to worry about any of that.
That's huge.
He's going to keep doing that. So yeah, it really is. It's going to be so important for me, especially my first year. Being, you know, even though I have, again, a lot of obviously years of experience, but anytime you go somewhere new, things are just done a little bit differently, you know? So, and he's been through it. So yeah, tremendous help. Very, you know, I've gotten to know him now a little bit. I knew Brian a little bit before, but you know, we've met a couple times now and, you know, visited about some things, and it's going to be great having him around.
Yeah. He's the man. You won't have any trouble there. Okay. When I text you, I know we wanted to make a plug for these summer camps you got coming up. So tell us a little bit about these camps so people can get some more information and come. Yeah.
So we got a little late start, you know, cause when I got hired, but we're going to start so right after school's out, that Tuesday after Memorial Day, we're going to do grades 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 boys. And then we're going to do those for, like I said, Tuesday through Friday in the high school gym at 1 to 4, I believe. Okay. And then also I stole all of Dean's stuff and just tried to stay consistent with what he'd done in the past. So, you know, everybody's kind of familiar with it. And then we're going to run a summer league for those same kids for 2 days a week for pretty much through June. And then it's like, I think except the first week, because I have my nephew gets married graduates in Minnesota. So we won't be back that first Monday. So it's like, I think it's Tuesday, Thursday that week. And then after that, throughout June, it's pretty much every Monday and Wednesday. So that's the first. And then we're going to do which is going to be really good for me. We're going to do a high school camp. I believe it's the second week in June, and we're going to go Monday through Thursday, about 8:30 to noon, I think. And just, that's going to really give me an opportunity to get in and work with those guys and see a little bit more of what they can do, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and start, you know, showing them the things that are my expectations and how we're going to just the way we go about things and how some of the things that we're going to do defensively, offensively, just in skill work stuff too, as well, obviously. And then that same week at nights, we're going to do little guys, the mini camp 1, 2, and 3. And I think that's, oh man, I'd have to look for sure, but it's 3 nights, 6 to 8 that week. And it's I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that week, those 3 nights.
But it's all on the Magician Facebook page.
Yeah, it's on the Facebook, it's out on Twitter, and then the Magician Athletics website. It's on the backpack for the Minot people that know, on the Minot Public's website. If you go into the backpack, it's all put in there as well. So,
well, there's a saying with Minot High: as long as you have a Gunville on the team, you got a chance. How cool is it though?
You got
2 more coming up. But you got a chance to coach Jackson, who at Minot State, who was fantastic. Should have seen that kid at the DC Classic, dude.
I can imagine.
8 a.m., 39 points. Like, I think he had, 9 or 10 threes. And phenomenal. And so everybody in Crosby's talking about, oh man, this guy, we got to get him in 3-point Calcutta. Sure. So he goes the highest in the Calcutta, goes out to the Calcutta, lays an egg. I don't know what happened, but he's like, dude, I was so nervous.
Must have been the pressure.
It was the pressure a little bit, because he went to the Ray Easter tournament, which is another amateur one, and he played really well. And I think he got second in the Calcutta.
Okay.
But anyways, so now you have his younger brother, and there's another one after that. He's a nice player.
Yes.
And so that's a nice piece to start off with.
Yeah. And he's probably got the most experience returning of any of the guys that are returning. So he did get some minutes last year, and, and just kind of like Jackson, he shoots it really well. But, you look at Jalen physically, he's as big as Jackson is now. I mean, Jalen's a physical specimen. He's defensively too. He's a very good defender. So we've got some good kids to build around. We just lack an experience with those kids, because Dean had 8 or 9 seniors, and most of those kids played.
Yep.
And again, those younger kids didn't get a lot of experience. So it's just a matter of getting those guys experience. That they're talented enough, I think. It just, it takes a little time, especially in the WDA, to learn kind of the ins and outs and the physicality, and that part of it is going to be a little bit of a learning experience to start the year for us, I think.
No, it really is. And but like you said, you start in the summer and kind of get to know what's the engine like. Okay, now we can build the car, and that's exactly what it's going to take. Have any of the coaches around the WDA reached out to you, be like, hey, congratulations, anything like that?
Yeah, I've had a couple reach out. Darren Madden reached out. We kind of have a history of, Darren and I are the same age. So actually, Darren went to Surrey to high school through his junior year.
That's right.
So we played them in high school.
No.
Yep. We played him in the auditorium. I think his junior year, we played Surrey there. And then he ended up moving to Minnesota then his senior year. But then we kind of met back up when I played at Minot State and he played at Mary, and then obviously some amateur stuff as well. So we have a little bit of a history. So yeah, he just reached out and said, welcome. If you
Coach Brandt, well, you're in good hands here. Welcome.
And if you have any questions or need anything, let me know. And so he reached out. I've go back with Dan Glauser. He was coaching at Richardson when I was in Beulah. So we've coached against each other a little bit, and then we've done some summer things with Dickinson over the years. When I was at Beulah, we'd meet up and, kind of have a little team camp type of thing where we'd play a little bit. And, so I know Dan fairly well. And, and I know Jordan Wilhelm a little bit. One of his uncle was on my staff at Beulah for a couple of years, Jeff Meisner. He now lives in Jamestown. But so, yeah, I know some of those guys. Some of them I don't. Well, Horner, obviously, he's a Minot State guy. And, so I know Jason quite well. So yeah, it'll be, I know I'm missing guys here right now, but I'm fairly familiar with some of those guys anyway. And, so yeah, it'll be, like I said earlier, it's going to be a challenge for sure, but something I'm really looking forward to. I think it's going to be a lot of fun every night. That league is a kind of it's a grinder.
It's a big one,
but it's going to be, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, one of the better perks of being a Minot High boys player is you're going to have a chance to watch Minot High girls play before you. Lily Bell just came out, #1 ranked player in the state, obviously. Maggie Fricky's fantastic. They got a lot of other nice pieces, but Lily, I just saw on Twitter, is she's moving up in the national ranks. She's up to 21, I think.
Yeah, I think I was visiting with Mitch the other day, and I think she just got an offer from LSU, and I think he had told me that she had moved up to, was at number 21 LSU. Or something right now.
LSU.
So, yeah, that's impressive.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I was at the state tournament when she twisted her ankle, and there was a scout there from Oklahoma that flew up just to watch that.
Okay.
And within I think she twisted it early in the first half. And she was really in pain though, and screaming. The whole gym, you could have heard a pin drop. And I'm like, I hope that's not a knee. Mm-hmm. But it was just an ankle. She came back and played. Nice player. But also the WDA, you have Lily, you have great girls players, but the boys side of it is loaded with talent. Gibson Kinnebrew was out and going all across America. He's playing really well. The talent the state has to offer is phenomenal.
Oh, for sure. And another kind of interesting fact. So the Nisley kid,
Garrett. Yeah.
So actually him and his dad and I lived together for part of a year at Minot State.
You're kidding me.
No. So he played basketball. He played football and basketball at Minot State, and he had kind of exhausted his football eligibility, but he had a little bit of basketball. And at that time, I think we were on quarters still, and I could be totally wrong with this, but so he came back and just for I believe it was the winter quarter then to play basketball. So yeah, he lived. We lived in the same duplex for that while that he was back here playing his last year. So I know his dad real well, and it's just funny the connections that you get through basketball.
Small world.
Absolutely. And the connections that you get through basketball and the people you get to know and become friends with. Brad was back for our alumni night, and I got to visit with him quite a bit that day while he was back. They came and watched practice, and then that night after the game. So it's those things that are really cool. The basketball community really is cool because of those things, how you get to know people and you compete with or against, but you get to be friends, and you kind of have that camaraderie with each other too. And I really enjoy that. And to be able to still do that because I'm coaching now is really a perk of being able to, or of coaching as well as just being able to stay in that community. His
daughter's really good too. Nebraska, Logan, right?
Yep.
Yeah, she's really good. Nebraska, that's Big Ten basketball.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And Garrett, I watched him a lot last year. I had quite a few Century games. he's right on the cusp of greatness too. Don't count him out. But let's get back to Magi basketball. So what can fans expect come this next season basketball-wise from the boys basketball team?
Well, defensively, obviously, I feel like I'm probably a defensive coach first. I think at tournament time, you have to be able to guard. So I've been a man-to-man defensive coach, and that's not going to change a whole lot. We'll maybe experiment with some different things. And, the one thing that I think I'm not going to, I don't really have a system, if you so per se that you call it, because I think at high school basketball, you need to be able to be flexible and change with what you have for talent. We can't run the same offensive stuff every year because some years we just don't have guys that can do certain things. So we have to adjust and do things that are their strengths, get guys the ball at certain spots where they like to have it, or try to get them shots where they feel more comfortable. So, that's going to be a feeling out process for me this summer. Again, is just, and I've gone back, I've been watching some sophomore, some JV games to try to just get a feel for what some of their strengths are. And talking with, one of the things we talked about that first meeting we had with assistant coaches was, I asked our guys, hey, what are our strengths? What do these guys do well? And so through those conversations in the camp that we have this summer, then I'll start to plan and kind of build around what I feel is going to be best for us. And if we get into the season and, hey, this just isn't working, then maybe we need to make adjustments and make some changes. But we'll compete. I mean, we're going to play hard. We're going to compete. We're going to continue that standard or expectation that the Magi boys basketball has had. And, that's something that's not going to change. I think there's a lot of similarities between Dean and myself as far as we're going to both, I'm going to be intense on the sideline. Dean was that way as well. And I think there's going to be a lot of similarities there. But yet I'm not Dean and I don't want to be Dean either. I have to do what coach to my strengths, and that's, what I plan to do. So, so the verdict's kind of out on that. I don't know if I answered your question real perfect, well, but I just feel that, again, I really feel that it's so important more important for me to adjust to my guys than it is for the guys to have to adjust to me, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. No,
so, and I think that's kind of been my philosophy all along.
And that camaraderie, I mean, that'll come with time. You know what I mean? Like those road trips in the WDA or going out east, wherever you guys go, you're going to build it up. So I know I speak for a lot of people. Very excited. I'm partial to the Magi because I pretty much live here now, but I'm really excited. I will say this, one of the best atmospheres are when the Magician Band plays in that corner and it's a packed house.
Yeah. Dude, isn't that something?
It's the best.
It is. It's loud in there too. It's loud in there.
And they're proud, and it's just, let's go get the basketball out. And even the fan section is always on point. I mean, it's just a special place.
It is.
But you turn and go anywhere in AA, it's like that a lot of places. But Coach Brandt, you've been on here once before, but this is new. So Swim Lessons podcast about overcoming tough times. Recently, leave us with something where you kind of had to, it could be even just focusing on something. What is something you can leave us with, a good saying that you've come across lately?
Well, I thought about this a little bit because obviously we went through this last time, but I'm going to go back a ways. So I told in 2005, we lost the state championship in double overtime when I was coaching in Botno, and a good friend of mine who was the coaching at rugby at the time, Greg Foster, he no longer coaches there, but he had sent me an email. And I don't know if you've seen that poem, The Man in the Arena by Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's something I've got multiple screenshots of that on my phone. I remember, I think it was when we lost to Shiloh, my last year in Beulah, I pulled that out and I read it to the guys in the locker room. It was a pretty emotional locker room because we had lost in the semifinals and, we weren't going on to the championship game. But that's something that I think fits a coach or an athlete perfect, because as a coach or an athlete, we put ourselves out there. We're obviously, we want to have success and we want to win that big game, but we're going to fail probably a lot more than we're going to succeed, if you kind of know what I mean. And I think that poem just speaks, it's spot on for that, because, you're always going to have critics. And as a basketball coach, a high school basketball coach, you're going to have a gym full of critics, besides everybody else that's not in the gym as well. But those people aren't out there. I forget who it was I was telling this. I said, when there's 5 seconds left and you call a timeout and you're down one and you have the ball, you better know, and you better have confidence, and your guys better have confidence in you. You better know what your plan is, what you're going to do. And your guys have to be confident when they walk out of that timeout that, hey, we're going to win this game, and we've done this in practice. So those are the things, again, that we as coaches, we really put ourselves out there, and so do athletes. We're kind of put on a pedestal, if you will, especially the athletes. And again, I'll just go back to, I really think that just sums up, it just hits spot on for coaches and athletes, the way that we are criticized and second guessed, if you will. But yet we're putting ourselves out there for that opportunity to, whether we succeed or fail, we're still putting ourselves out there and doing the best that we can. And, I'll always remember that, and I'll always use that. I just think it just fits perfectly for, like I said, for my profession and for being an athlete as well. So I refer to that a lot. I'll bring it up and just read through it, and just to kind of, hey, you know what, this is, it's all right to fail. We'll get it next time, or this, I'll learn something from this, and we'll move on, and we'll get better, and we'll be ready next time we play, or next time we're in that situation again. So
beautiful. I can't wait. Man,
yeah, I'm excited. I really am. I think I told you in that text too. It's been fun, kind of refreshing, planning again, and getting ready for a season. Even though we're a long ways away, it'll come fast. But just kind of that feeling, you get, and then being a new job too. Obviously, there's some more invigoration, if you will, because I'm excited. I wish we could start next week, but I obviously I need that time to kind of just plan some more and kind of get a better feel for what we have and our talent level and where we're at. So,
well, even when you walked in here, I could just tell you were excited about something, and you had a couple open gyms, and you were just, not that you weren't excited when I talked to you last time we were at Minot State, but this time, there's something different. The big question of the night, and I almost forgot, what did Cody Nelson say when you got the job?
Well, he reached out and just said, hey, congrats, coach. I'm glad to see you're back in it again. And Cody's always been, you don't have favorites as a coach, but he's always been one of those kids. He's just energetic. He just has that personality where you can't help but love him because of what he is and what he means to my family and his family. His brother played for me as well. So I had two of the boys from that family, and we know his mom and dad very well. So I just, they mean the world to our family and to me as well. And Cody does. And it's wonderful to see him coaching with, Coach Shirato and Beulah and back in it, and Cody's got a couple boys that'll be coming up. So, you just, you can go back and watch that interview with John Cole at the state tournament. Dude, he's got his arm around him and he's looking at him like they're the long lost friends from 25 years ago. And he just thinks nothing different of it, but that's just Cody.
I saw Jet Headache too, one of your former players, at this race. I'm like, dude, what about Brandt? He's like, let's go, Magi. He is. He's like, let's go, Magi.
Yeah, I think he played with Jackson probably in Divide County, right? So Jet lives in town, and I had all three of those boys, Jesse, Jet, and Champ, and I had such great parents, great kids in Beulah, and there's maybe some people that are scratching their head thinking, well, I thought he left here so he could go to, and now he's coaching again, and some of them are probably, I don't know, maybe upset, or I don't know, but I just can't say enough good things about Beulah. I mean, I really can't. The kids, the parents, what a wonderful place. And Brandon Shirato has done a tremendous job. They're going to be really good.
They are.
This next year coming up. And I just, Brandon's carried on what we had going for a while there. And he was part of that as an assistant coach with me too. And just so excited for him and his sons, to get to experience that with your sons. And your son, you got one now too. There's nothing like it, man. It
might
really
be a
isn't.
future Magi here.
There you
he
go.
Might be towards the end of your career by the time he gets up there.
But there's nothing like it. It really isn't. To experience those things with your sons, the highs and the lows, obviously as well. You go through some things some challenges for sure, but there's just, I don't know. You just
nothing like it.
Nothing like it. You just can't explain it. I would never ever give up those years, those opportunities that I had to coach Trey. And that's that first time this year when I'm going to miss a game because of coaching here, it's going to be emotional for me. It will be tough, because that was a big part of the reason why I got stepped away for a couple years ago was because I wanted that flexibility. So I got to make it work for the next 2 years. I might have a lot of, nights where we're on the road, where we're driving somewhere to Augustana or Wayne, Nebraska or Sioux Falls. But, and that's great because I get to experience those things with him that in 2 years it'll be done. And then maybe he'll, again, like we talked earlier, maybe he'll be able to coach with me, but in 2 years he's done. So we got to just make a point and make sure that I get to as many things as I can still. And I've visited with, my assistants too, and told them that, there's going to be times, hey, I may schedule a morning practice so I can get my butt out of here and go watch him play. Yeah.
Just have Lundy gas up the Magi jet. You just
right there you go. Yeah. Somebody could donate one to us or
there
something.
You go.
Right?
Yeah. There's some doctors in the program.
Right? I think so.
Well, this has been so fun for me. And I speak for everybody on behalf of PSP Network. We're looking forward to covering you guys and all the magicians, and good luck, more greatness to come. And I'm so excited for you, for your family. I know it sucks about Trey, but he told you right. He knows this is a great opportunity for you, and he knows you're kind of meant to be a head coach. So best of luck. Stay in touch, and I wish you the best.
Well, I appreciate this. I enjoy coming on here and talking basketball with you. Yeah. I was even on a radio show back home or back in Beulah with Jeff Veronic that I used to go on, and he interviewed me a week or two after I got the job too. So I just it's going to be awesome. Talking to you guys at PSP at halftime or after games, and so no, it's. I'm really looking forward to it for sure. I'm excited for the opportunity, and awesome. It'll be here soon.
Go Magi.
Go Magi.